Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so Western Conference Finals last night, game 3. Dallas Mavericks went up 3-0 in the series, and it's just one of those situations. I'm listening to different people analyze the game, and what I'm hearing consistently is not enough adjustments have been coming the Dallas Mavericks way. They've been able to effectively continue to face some of the same stuff they've been successful with. And I have to be inclined to agree. I think there was something that I learned in game 2 of the Denver series that I think Minnesota has forgotten. And that's just how effective they were without Rudy Gobert in their rotation at all. Do they remember how good they were defensively? Do they remember how good they were offensively? Rudy Gobert is an enigma, I think. I don't know if that's the right way of using the word. I'm not sure. But what I'm trying to say is his defense is more so about team defense and how he draws it in. As an individual on-ball defender, he's not particularly good in the post. He's not particularly good on the perimeter. He's not particularly good at all. So what we've seen is 2 games in a row where he's been able to get basically abused by ball handlers out in the perimeter. I mean, not only Luka Doncic, but we saw it with Jaden Hardy in the last game. We saw it in other situations as well. So it's like, and on the offensive end, obviously he's not stretching the floor. This takes me back to Gilbert Arenas bringing up a very, very unique perspective from my brain in regards to defensive players. They don't provide enough of a threat on the offensive end to effectively make up for what is otherwise great that they do defensively. They don't do enough to make it so that people have to guard them, and as a result, the defense is doubling down and tripling down on the other players on the floor. It's the same problem the Lakers had with Vanderbilt in a lot of situations and Cam Reddish in situations. It always equates to the same thing. If I don't have to worry about you, then that means I can focus more on other people. And if I can focus more on other people, that makes them less effective. As soon as Gilbert Arenas brought that up to my understanding, as soon as he articulated in the way that he did, my entire idea about how much a defensive player who can't play offense is actually worth changed completely. Now I'm not as high on Vanderbilt types. Now, because at the end of the day, I have an understanding that they truly do hurt the offensive players on their own team, no different than they hurt the offensive team, the guys on the other side with their defense. So it all cancels itself out to them being back to square one as it pertains to what their productivity is. Yeah, they're going to help you on the defensive end, but they're going to hurt you on the offensive end. And so a guy like Rudy Gobert is that same type of way. I can't get him to stretch the damn floor. And not only that, but even in the interior, he's not much of a threat. I mean, occasionally he might do a nice little hook shot. Maybe once in a blue moon he does a turnaround fadeaway jumper that we're excited about. Oh my God, he did that. But like from possession to possession to possession, I can't count on him for really any damn thing. Really nothing. And so it's like he's getting Defensive Player of the Year. That means that he's going to be able to demand that he take on big defensive assignments, even if it's Luka Doncic on the perimeter. This is the Defensive Player of the Year, and therefore, we're going to trust him to be in those situations, even though nothing that we've seen ever has made us think that that's a good idea. But because people keep awarding him for his team defensive anchoring, he gets put in situations that ultimately exploit his deficiencies on that end. So he's also a player who I can't put on the floor on the defensive end in certain situations because he's just as much of a liability there as he is on the offensive end. So, I was listening to a guy do a mock draft yesterday, and one of the things that he said that made me turn off his channel, I cut off the video immediately after he said this. He said, I think we owe everybody who called the Rudy Gobert trade a bad one an apology. Or rather, they owe us an apology. Those of us who were supporting the trade. I thought it was a genius move. Click. Click. They overpaid for a player that they are effectively showing us they are better without right now. Dude said that the people who said that was a bad trade owe him and others an apology for saying so. Brother, that trade was the worst trade in NBA history. He is not at all why they are where they are. They may have effectively been a better team, and it might have been proven in game 2 of the Denver series without him. Better on the offensive side because more of the defense gets to diversify instead of load up off of him onto other offensive players. And better on the other side of the ball as well because they weren't having somebody getting hunted out, exploited, completely exploited on the perimeter. They don't have that problem with Naz Reid. They don't have that problem with Karl Towns. You definitely don't have that problem with Jaden McDaniels. And most importantly, 2 or more of them are on the floor more so because his absence is present. So now instead of having him out there eating away at minutes from good defensive players who can play the perimeter, you got him out there taking away from the defense in some areas that otherwise the others would not. I'm telling you that Rudy Gobert trade is the worst trade in NBA history. It's right up there with the Ivica Zubac trade. The 2 worst trades I can think of. The 2 worst trades I can think of, y'all. Don't get much worse than those right there. All the stuff that they gave up for Rudy Gobert just for him to be deficient on both sides of the floor. I'm sorry, man, but anybody that tells me that that was a genius trade is no longer someone I'm listening to. You got to stop talking to me about basketball. I don't want to hear no more opinions from you if you think that trade was any good. They gave up Walker Kessler in that trade, who I think is a more effective center than Rudy Gobert right now. At the things Rudy Gobert is allegedly good at, like blocking shots. Walker Kessler's better than him. And he was a throw-in in the trade along with 5 other picks, 3 other players, including Vanderbilt. I mean, you just talk about an overpay of the highest order that literally tanked the future of the franchise. The only thing they can do is use what they had. They can't get better. They don't have the assets to get better because they gave them to Utah for Rudy Gobert. And you want to tell me that's not a bad trade? Bro, that is the bad trade. When you look up bad trade in Wikipedia, you should see Rudy's face next to the words. It's utterly awful. Today, with him in the Western Conference Finals. It's awful, fam. And so that's what I want to say, man. I had to turn him off. I couldn't listen to him no more. First of all, I didn't agree with half the stuff dude was talking about as it pertains to who he was picking and why in the mock draft. I'm sitting there like, what? Bringing up names I didn't see on nobody's mock, taking them in the first round. I'm like, what? And then he gonna say some stuff like that. I'm like, man, let me turn this guy off, man. I tell you, I'm not a basketball player. I'm not the greatest basketball mind in the world. But when I listen to people like that, they sure as hell give me a lot of confidence that I know what I'm talking about. Let me tell you. At any rate, Rudy Gobert, if the Minnesota Timberwolves have any sense, they will take him in his 3 Defensive Player of the Year trophies and all of the assets that they can get for him, they will acquire for him in this offseason. I'm trading him now. While people still believe that he was the reason you got to the conference finals, while people still believe he is one of the greatest defensive players to ever play the game, while his value is that high, you need to try to capitalize on that. You're not going to get what you gave up for him because nobody's as stupid as you, but you can get half of that maybe. If you wait for people to see him in another season of this, and your team doesn't end the way that it did this season, for which it probably will not, I guarantee you, you will not be able to capitalize on his value anymore. This is the last time you're going to be able to get that much for Rudy Gobert. So that's what I'm saying, man. They need to capitalize on him this offseason while he's coming off another Defensive Player of the Year, while he's in the Western Conference Finals and can say that for the rest of the summer. That's when you trade that dude. You get him out of there right now. Right now. You move him. You move him for whatever anybody will give you. That's what I'm telling you. Because I'm telling you, if you wait, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're going to want to trade him later on, and you're not going to be able to get as much for him as you would have right now. And given all that you gave up to get him, this is the time to capitalize as much as you can. You ever had a stock that just tanks all the way to hell, and that one magical day you've held on to it and it goes up 25%? You know damn well it's time to move on from that thing. Yeah, it dropped 75%, but you had a 25% day. It's time to get the hell out of there. In theory. Because sometimes you jump out right before recovery or something like that. It's possible. But most of the time, you should have been trying to get the hell out of that thing, and should have been waiting for days like this to do so. This is that. You ain't never gonna get the value back that you gave up. But his value is about as high as his dead cat is gonna bounce. You need to get him off of your team while there's still some value left within this person. And so that's what I'm telling you, man. Rudy Gobert, look, I think somebody's gonna want him. When you talk about the Western Conference dealing with all these centers that are coming in, you may be able to get somebody that'll give you something for him, especially now. So that's what I think Minnesota needs to do. You're not going to be able to do a full reset. You don't want to. But getting him off the team at this particular price, I think is a very good thing, because he's not going to get better than this. He's about to approach, 31 or something like that? It's not like you're expecting upside in any way. It's time to move Rudy. It's time. If you can get any picks for him, you do it. If you can get any young players for him, you do it. You get him the hell out of there. I hear people talking about trading Karl Anthony Towns. Not as imperative as moving Rudy. Because Rudy represents everything that you gave away. And if you can get anything at all for that, it's a good thing. All they had to do was hold on to Walker Kessler. They'd have been 5 picks richer. They could have traded those 2 picks for a different type of player. Hell, they could have traded those 2 picks for Rudy Gobert. This is why I say not every move needs to be made in the offseason, man. It's exactly why I told my Lakers that very thing a couple of days ago. Not every move needs to be made in the offseason. Sometimes you need to wait till the midseason to figure out what a price tag is going to be on a guy. Because if you move him in the offseason, everybody gets to soup him up to be some great thing. In the regular season, we seen him last week. We saw him 2 days ago. We've been seeing him all season long. We know what his trends are, and we could pay for that price, rather than paying the hypothetical price of the hypothetical player in the offseason when he's not playing no basketball. So these are the type of things that we're considering right now, man. I think Minnesota's in a great spot as it pertains to, you got Ant-Man. Karl Towns is still worth something, still in theory developing even further, although I wouldn't say he's a developing player, but he's in his prime. It's not imperative you move him right now. Rudy Gobert is coming off a defensive player of the year that we all know he's not the best defensive player in the league. Maybe he deserved it. Maybe he deserved it some magical way, some technical way. But whatever the case may be, it provides a false understanding of his gifts in this league when you give him 4 and 5 defensive player of the years. It gives a false representation of what it is his limitations may be. That's all that's really effectively done. But it still represents a certain value that you can use on the market. So I'm moving him. I'm moving him now. And I think most smart GMs are considering that. Move him now. Because as long as you're asking him to play the perimeter and switching out sheepishly for him to be having to guard people that obviously he shouldn't be out there guarding, if he ain't smart enough to stay down or hunt out the step back 3 with Luka the damn Doncic, then he's obviously not somebody you need to be holding on to at this price. Not at all. So that's just something that I know, man. I don't know if y'all see it that way. Maybe some people say, like I said, they couldn't have gotten this far without Rudy. I will tell you, they couldn't have gotten this far without the Rudy dynamic. I can trade for another player to play that role. Walker Kessler could have played that role. I need Rudy. Not Rudy. I need what Rudy was supposed to represent. You understand what I'm saying? A 7-footer with long arms who could disrupt things on the back line. That is exactly what Minnesota could use. so that Karl Anthony Towns is not being asked to be that person. But I don't need Rudy. Hell, I don't think too many teams would need Rudy when you consider his deficiencies. But that defensive player of the year 3 times over, or how many, 4 of them, however many they gave him, that is worth something. Even if he's not, that is. And you could sell somebody on that if you're Minnesota's GM. Maybe OKC, not OKC, but maybe like New Orleans or somebody like that. They need a center. Hell, my Lakers could use a center, although I would tell us not to get him. But that's not the point. You're trying to play the market. You see who would otherwise be in the market for a center. You're going to find us a couple of teams that know damn well they can't guard players in the paint will want somebody like Rudy Gobert to be able to do that. So that's what I'm telling y'all, man. The one thing that I think is hurting the Minnesota Timberwolves right now is athleticism at the center position. Karl's a negative in that way. Rudy's average, I guess, in that way. Naz Reid, that's not his strength. Not a pogo stick, man. They need pogo sticks at the center position. Guys that can leap, catch lobs, and block shots. They run the floor really well. If they would have had at least one of them dudes in that 3-man rotation of centers, I think they'd be in a different space right now against these Dallas Mavericks who have that everywhere. And speaking of that, Lively went down yesterday with a scary head injury. Karl Towns hit him in the back of the head with the knee after hitting him in the groin with the knee. Karl's knees were everywhere yesterday. And I know I'm supposed to think that he wasn't doing it on purpose. So I'm just going to roll with that. Even though I've been watching basketball for 30 years and I know dudes put their knees out on purpose in the playoffs. Karl Malone, Karl Anthony Towns, Karl Jr., everybody's Karl, you know what I'm saying? They put their knees out. That's what they do. So, yeah, did Karl mean to bash that man's head in with his knee? I'm going to say no. Was he sorry that it happened in the way he did? I'm going to say no, because he definitely need that man off the floor if he had any chance of getting back in this series in any way. And as you can see, they were able to cut down on the deficit as soon as Lively went out. Because as long as Lively was out there, they were in trouble. All of the things that Lively brought to the table were exactly too much for the Minnesota Timberwolves to overcome with their unathletic centers. And so, him being out for Game 4 does concern me a little bit as it pertains to whether or not this series is going to get extended. They were able to survive a half without him. I don't know if they could survive a full game without him. Going up against a Minnesota team that's desperate and that needs to win, I think you may see Minnesota win that game. Because they really are going to miss that piece in Game 4. But, it is what it is, man. I tell you the truth. If I'm a betting man, I wouldn't bet this series goes past 6, though. Minnesota may be able to win the next 2 games, but that series is over. He ain't coming back from that. I ain't coming back from that. And as far as the Celtics and the Pacers are concerned, maybe the Pacers will be able to squeeze out a game tonight. But my gut says, hell no, man. Chance. They ain't got no chance of coming back from that. First of all, the Celtics have proven themselves to be just a better team in general, even without Porzingis. They're a better team. And on top of them being a better team, the Pacers just keep making bad decisions at the worst times. You're up 3. You're not going to foul? Okay. Jordan Brown's going to hit a 3. Send it in overtime. You're going to lose in overtime. Jason Tatum just missed a turnaround jumper and down the stretch of a game. Think you should call a timeout, maybe run a play? Nah, you ain't going to run a play. You're going to go down, team's going to throw up a brick, and then from there, everything goes bad. It's just a bad coaching situation is ultimately what's rearing its ugly head against the Pacers. So when you're not a better team and your coach is doing stuff that hurts you, you ain't got a chance. You can have big leads, but it's just like the Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. Those leads don't mean squat. Because when it really comes down to it, you can't help yourself but make certain decisions that are ultimately going to play into the hands of the Celtics. In the Lakers' case, it was the Nuggets. So that's what I see there, man. I think that series is over tonight. I think that series is a wrap. And then we'll see. We'll see if the Pacers are able to get one in home, try to turn this into a gentleman's sweep like the Lakers did Denver. But You know, I believe in the desperation of teams in a lot of cases. So I think it's a decent chance they win tonight, but you got to win game one in the fashion that they lost it. You got to win that game. You can't give that one back. Because game twos are going to happen. A lot of those games are going to teeter the other way just because other teams are more talented. You can't be giving up 19-point deficits. 2 of those in one series without you getting a victory, and suddenly you're down 0-3. Because like I said, game 2 was inevitable. You were definitely going to lose certain games to the Celtics. So the ones that they give you or the ones that you are supposed to take, you must capture. So yeah, that series is over one way or another. I think both of those series are over one way or another. I think history tells us nobody comes back from 0-3 in basketball. And I don't think history is going to be set here. You know what I'm saying? I don't think so. So I'm looking forward to the Celtics Mavericks. Of course, I'm going for the Mavericks. You guys know that. I'm a Kyrie fan, so this is my opportunity to really root for Kyrie in a real way. And I hope he does it, man. I hope he goes into Boston, stomps on Lucky, and sends him into disgrace once again. So that's pretty much what I got to say. My name is BDL44. I thank y'all for watching.